Welcome back to Autodesk Digital Builder Podcast. I'm your host, Eric Thomas. We are once again coming to you live from DevCon in lovely Amsterdam. And today we're going to talk a bit about the event itself, kind of the history behind DevCon. To help me tell that story today, I'm joined by Ben Cochran, VP of Engineering with Autodesk. Ben, welcome back to the show. It's good to see you. How are you feeling today?
Thank you for having me. I'm feeling good. I love this event. It's one of my favorite events.
I'm very happy to be here. And of course, I've never been to Amsterdam, so it's exciting to check out a new city. But the energy tied to everything that's been announced, the gathering of all the developers and people who are just really excited about technology. Can you tell me what exactly is DevCon all about for somebody who might not have ever attended before?
Yeah, DevCon, like I said, it's probably my favorite event. And what happened is, I think it was 11 years ago or so, when we kicked off a bunch of APIs, cloud-based APIs, that were really built to extend what we could do with the desktop tools. As we were moving into cloud-based services, Fort Mason in San Francisco, we kicked off this event, and we've been progressing for the last 11 years. And what we did is we had a US event, and then we had a European event, and really what we saw is really big interest in the European event. And so we actually just moved the whole event here. And for a bunch of years, we had it in Munich. And this is the second year we've been in Amsterdam, where we made the event bigger. We had, I think the number is 1,200 people that are here at this event, learning about what it means to build on APS, how to extend that for building out new solutions for our customers and for the people who are building on their solutions, their customers as well.
It's a lot of really great energy kind of coming together, and it makes sense to bring folks to have this conversation and learn from each other. And it sounds like it's a very kind of two-way conversation when we really get into the weeds of some of the experiences and activations. Can you tell me a bit more about the DevCon community and the attendees and what they hope to get out of the experience?
One of the reasons why this great event is so great and why I love it so much is the community of people who are here. They understand what the customers need. When you look at an entire solution, and Autodesk is a part of that solution, but it doesn't solve every aspect of that. There's certain needs that are specific to certain industries or certain companies where you need to do integrations with SAP, or you need to build additional workflows or validation systems, all around design and make data. And what these people do here is they understand those gaps. They understand those needs and that business opportunity, and they build on APS and then contribute their technology to fill out those outcomes for people who design and make the world. It really is a unique group of people who understand the impact they can make in the world and how to drive that impact with technology.
And I think one of the other cool things I've heard is the customers and developers and the folks who are actually using all the technology that gets announced and shared at events like this, they often exceed expectations as far as what your team might have thought was possible or might happen when new tech is deployed out in the field. And it's really just exciting to hear and see about that feedback loop that's happening, where the technology really hits the ground, but a lot of cool things happen from there.
What you bring up is an interesting way of looking at things. And when you're building a platform, you're building an enabling technology. You have ideas about how that technology can be used, how that platform opportunity can be realized. But if you're building a platform right, you don't know all the opportunities. Because if I'm a developer who's building on it, they're the ones who understand what that customer needs, and they're the ones who see that business opportunity.
Yeah.
And so you see we get to learn how our platform is being used. That helps us, of course, adapt the platform, but it's also super exciting to see the new ideas, the new learnings, and the ways that we didn't imagine it could be used.
Yeah, I can just see that truth just to how fired up people are and passionate about having the opportunity to come in and speak to folks like yourself, but a lot of the other customers here, and they're learning from each other. It's a pretty cool experience, to say the least.
They get excited about coming back to us and telling us what they do with the platform. And I just love that. Every year they come back and they tell me new things about what they've done. It's great.
It's definitely very cool. And I want to get into some of the big announcements that have been made this week. I think a lot of exciting news has come out of the keynotes across the 2 days that we've been here. What's happening? What are you most excited about that's been shared so far?
Usually we come and we talk about the addition to an API or something that can feel incremental sometimes, like we'll add another data API or a new way to access the data. But with the change in the ecosystem and the change in technology, especially driven by agentic AI, we've been pushing the boundaries of what we can do and what others can do. And so we have these really key announcements. We have the Autodesk Assistant that can integrate with third-party MCPs that we talked about today and we announced. And so what you can see here is now the contributors and the builders here who are building MCPs and building technology that connects to other data sources and systems and skills that can be then brought into the Autodesk Assistant, which is currently now just in beta in a number of Autodesk products. But it's really great to see how that's coming together and how that will continue to grow. The other things that we talked about were MCPs on top of Fusion and Revit, as well as the Autodesk Design and Make Marketplace, where this is an opportunity for third parties to put their MCPs in place so the Autodesk Assistant can find those MCPs and understand how to orchestrate and put workflows together.
Everything you're sharing here has me pretty excited because of the last conversation you and I actually had on Digital Builder. I feel like this is the extension of that early MCP-driven conversation. And if you're out there listening and you're not sure what MCP or Model Context Protocol is, you should absolutely go back and listen to the last episode that I had been on, because we go very deep into what that technology means for the industry. And it's kind of exciting because I think we were looking at that, like, what might happen, where could the industry go at that point, and we're starting to get there now in a very meaningful and exciting way. So I'd also like to hear more a bit about the marketplace specifically. Can you share more about what that is all about and how folks can engage with it?
Yeah, when we look at agentic AI and we look at how these agents interact with systems, oftentimes we look at AI and we say, it's the data we give it is the data it uses. But what makes AI in the design and make space really powerful is its connections to systems, services, and applications. And MCPs provide that. They provide the ability to access data sources, the ability to change data sources. It's really interesting and exciting to see how now the agentic systems can become partners with data sources and skills and systems that help build out, again, these workflows that this community is building.
There's a lot to be excited about, and I'm glad that we're engaging the community in this way. Zooming out a little bit more, were there any major themes or developments that emerged at DevCon this year that really surprised you, or alternatively have you really fired up?
The one that it just seems like it's consistent everywhere, and it's in manufacturing space, it's in the AEC space, and it's also in the media entertainment space, is where you see jobs or things that took weeks to get answers, turning into moments. And when you see this, when you see something that takes 4 weeks turn into 5 minutes, or even an hour or an afternoon, what you have is the ability to make faster, better decisions, the ability to run more experiments, the ability to get to better answers faster. And I think that what you see is this is AI driving us, the people, to make these better decisions. The number of experiments, the number of trials, and how we can get to better answers is really exciting to me. I really, really get excited when things that we're going to take, if you have a process with 4 weeks and you turn it into a few moments and you compound that over an entire project, you're taking things that took years and you're doing them in weeks.
And I think that's kind of what is the core of what's exciting right now. It's allowing us to refocus our energy into more complex problems or trying new things. And especially in the world of AECO, the labor challenge is always top of mind for any professional. And if you're able to free up more room for them to do different aspects of their work and build on something that either came from agentic AI or any of the other exciting things we're talking about right now, I think it really changes the conversation. And the folks that aren't paying attention right now, I think they're going to get left behind in the next 5 years, because the competitive angle that the organizations who really are embracing this speed of change, it's going to be a very different conversation moving forward.
And the case, when you look back, I made an analogy yesterday around a big change that happened when Galileo discovered that the Earth was not at the center of the solar system, and how it changed the astronomy the world forever, because now we understood the motion of the planets and what it meant to be a sun-centered solar system. But these changes have happened over history forever, is that technology does change the way we work, and it does change how we do things and what outcomes we can get to. And that transformation is something that I think we need to invest in. That's, I think, how we continue to stay relevant and provide better answers and get better outcomes. When we look at the amount of energy and spend that we have to correct errors and adjust for mistakes and have waste in the system, if we want to look at how to use our resources better and more responsibly, you look at these opportunities, and part of that, or the key to that, is making better decisions. And that means having the right data in the right places, building collaboration that happens between different disciplines. Now, there's a really exciting demo that I saw where you had collaboration happening between someone who was in the contracting phase of the project with the architects and engineers, and they were using different applications in different spaces, in different times, in different areas, and they were able to collaborate in real time to get the data back to the person who was making the decision. What that's going to do is that's going to make sure that design decision is made upfront, and when they actually go to build the building, they're not going to have the material waste and the time delays that would have cost. So you're saving opportunity, and you're using resources better. So I think that's where I get really, really excited, is that we do more efficient, more effective work.
Yeah, and I think another aspect of this technological kind of revolution that we're in the middle of right now is it's also changing the way that we approach doing work. And construction has operated in a very similar way for many, many years, and for good reason, because there was an established process for how we get work done. And I think the new tools that are being introduced today allow teams to start to rethink the order of operations that we're considering, or the way we execute a workflow. And it's kind of an exciting, and I think potentially anxiety-inducing for some folks, because there's a lot of change. But I think amidst all of that change is tremendous opportunity for us to improve our productivity, improve our outcomes, and start to solve some of these bigger challenges that everybody in the industry is facing right now.
Yeah, and you're right. Change is hard, and the pace of this change is happening very, very fast, which is, I think I think it's right that it induces some feeling of anxiety or some concern because of the pace. And the other thing that I think that is can be unsettling about the pace of this change is we don't know how exactly it's going to change. And so while we directionally have good indicators, we don't know the exact answer. And that's the nature of change to begin with. And happening fast it brings some concern. And I think you're right, is that I think the solution is to lean into that and to explore and to experiment, and also to have the ability to make mistakes in the change itself. Yep. I think we have to those mistakes are the ones we reflect on and we learn from, and we end up with a better outcome. And that's where again, coming back to this community, the learning from the mistakes or the learnings that they have, the number of conversations I had around how this changes process, like you said, the order of things. Now all of a sudden we can experiment faster, but what do we do with those experiments, and how does that change what we do with the answer, and does that move a decision to a different process in the workflow? And the answer is yes. We have to understand that, and this community comes here, and that's one of the things that they talk about is the learnings that they have, and sharing how they advance the whole field.
I love everything you're sharing here. Was there anything else that came up during your conversations, or just the broader announcements that you're feeling fired up about that you think is worth sharing today?
The only other thing I would say is there is a very a change in tone. I think last year and through a lot of last year, we saw a lot of maybe questioning, right? It was just, is it the time? Should we make the investment? Should we be moving in this direction? And what I'm seeing just very, very clearly here is that yes, the time is now. We don't have the answers, and we're seeing that exposure, that lean in, that experimentation, which I think is really exciting. And I felt like for most of last year it was getting to this point, and now I'm a little bit taken back, and I'm like, okay, what's next, and how do we learn now from the community?
I'm not surprised. I mean, just the amount of change and rapid development of artificial intelligence since we last spoke, 6 or 7 months ago, is kind of insane. Like it's incredible and exciting. And I think a lot of the folks who felt to be more AI skeptics even 6 months ago are starting to circle back and go, okay, things have changed now. Where should I be paying attention? Yeah. And what happens next? As you mentioned earlier, sometimes we're not really sure where things are headed, but I think the foundation is there, and there's a lot to be excited about as all the technology kind of continues to progress, and people are trying new things and figuring out new and exciting ways to work. So you've been consistent every time you've answered this question. I'm curious how we'll go this time around. What is one tool you use on every project, no matter what you're working on?
Well, I'm tempted to go with my same answer is curiosity. But maybe a close second is grit.
I like that. Can you tell me, what do you mean by grit specifically?
One of the things when you're working on a project, especially something that's new, and you don't really know how it's going to turn out, you do make a lot of mistakes.
Yeah.
And I think it's learning from those mistakes, knowing that it was a mistake, and that gives you a new opportunity to learn from and come back again and try again. And to not give up on the possibility of the outcome you're looking for, the possibility of the next thing, the improvement. I think that's something that I kind of define grit as just, staying with it. Not staying with it to try to drive your own point of view, but to try to drive for that outcome, that new possibility.
I love that. And I think the teams that are really clear in defining it's okay to fail in these moments of experimentation, when we're trying new things, they set themselves up to be successful because you give room for that, but you do that quickly and then you move on. And I think like grit, you don't want to just keep going down the rabbit hole just because you set yourself in this direction. There's a lot of intention behind that. So I love that answer. I love the iteration on the curiosity. And Ben, of course, it's always a pleasure having a chance to catch up with you, and look forward to the next DevCon.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, this has been a pleasure. And for everybody out there listening, of course, this is Autodesk Digital Builder Podcast. If you have any questions for me, you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm the only Eric Thomas that works at Autodesk. If you are listening on the audio version, I'm always going to encourage you to head over to YouTube. We are in an absolutely beautiful location here in beautiful Amsterdam, so make sure you check that out. And until the next time, goodbye.